Welcome to the Enriched Nurse with your host, Dan Richmond. Enrich your personal finances, nursing career, and life.
This month, wanted to do a short episode on how active nurses, especially with families, can reduce the out-of-pocket burden on their high-deductible health plans with an accident insurance plan in addition. That way, if you're using the health savings account and you're looking to leave those funds invested so that they can grow, an accident insurance plan may help you reduce the out-of-pocket burden that you would have with a high-deductible health plan, meaning you would not need to potentially draw as much or any of your actual health savings account fund. Before we dive in, did you know there's an easier way for nurses to get paid to get smart with their money in just 3 steps? Check out the Enriched Nurse's accredited nursing CE offerings to choose your path. Get paid to learn and take action to transform your life and finances. Your time is valuable. Nursing school didn't teach you about money, but we will. Every nurse deserves the quality work-life balance and freedom financial well-being can offer. Learn more at enrichednurse.com. So a couple years ago, I was wondering about whether or not I should get accident insurance during open enrollment, and it didn't seem very costly, but it also didn't seem very valuable. It seemed a little gimmicky. I reached out to a colleague who I knew had suffered a bunch of injuries in a motorcycle accident. They not only had the accident insurance, but they had actually used it. They told me it's a good thing I had it because Oregon Paid Leave hasn't paid out a single penny. That's Oregon's short-term disability or paid leave program. That's relatively new in Oregon. So the injuries they had suffered and the several days that they spent in ICU meant that they actually received thousands of dollars in payments after they made a claim from the accident insurance. And the process sounded like it was relatively easy to use. All they had to do was upload proof of the injuries and medical care and be prepared to provide receipts when needed. Accident insurance is just what it sounds. It helps protect against accidents. Say you sprain an ankle trail running, and then you wind up in urgent care needing some x-rays. If you have a high-deductible health insurance plan, you'll have to pay all of the out-of-pocket costs for that visit, which is likely going to be several hundreds of dollars. It's going to be a while before you actually reach your deductible. One ER visit, even for something relatively minor, that could cost $2,000 to $3,000. So even with a moderate injury, say you break your arm, you need surgery, your medical insurance isn't going to pay until you've hit your deductible, which is often thousands of dollars on high-deductible health plans if you're insuring family members. The federal minimum, I think right now, is $1,700 for the individual deductible, but it's $3,400 if you have more than one person insured, and you would have to hit that family or higher deductible if you're insuring more people before the plan pays anything other than preventive care, and that's pretty typical. Depending on your high deductible plan, it could be even higher. Like you could have even higher deductibles than the federal minimums. If you have accident insurance, though, you can get lump sum cash payments depending on the care needed and the type of injury. And this effectively offsets the burden of having to meet your deductible by paying out of pocket and having that high deductible health plan. It also means if you're using it for, like I said, to take advantage of the health savings account, that more of your HSA funds can stay put and you can allow those investments to grow. And so now that's where accident insurance may make sense through your employer by supplementing your high deductible health plan and reducing the potential need to use those HSA funds. So it won't pay out for more common medical issues, like if you get an infection or you're suffering abdominal pain. It's only going to be accidents. So it probably doesn't make sense for everybody to do this. It's not going to actually benefit you unless you have an accident. But there is one thing about these plans that makes it have a lot of appeal, which makes me more willing to pay for it, is the insurance can actually pay for itself depending on your family size and the plan. So the plans often will pay out a health screening benefit. It's only $50, but it's per person covered by the policy. I have a family of 4, so that's a health screening benefit of $200 for being on the plan. And it's not like you have to go to a specific doctor's visit. I simply use routine dental cleanings in order to get it. And so what's interesting is there's like a list, like 20, 30 plus potential screenings or preventive type health exams that you could do in order to qualify for the health screening benefit. So things like a mammogram, cancer screenings, getting a chest x-ray, getting some lab work done, even just a CBC or a routine dental exam, like I said, or going to your primary care doctor. There's a ton of stuff. Doesn't even have to be a full-on visit. That's pretty handy because that eliminates the hassle factor of, having to set up a doctor's appointment if you're like me and you don't really go to the doctor very often. But having that long list makes it more likely that you'll actually, take advantage of the health screening benefit, if you remember. Normally, like I said, I'd consider this type of insurance gimmicky and not worth it. But this year, I've literally got $475 in benefit from the plan on the accident insurance, and it only costs me $157 to insure my family of four. That $157 annual cost is through my employer on the employer's group rates, and they appear to be quite a bit lower than the public retail rates that are advertised. I'm not necessarily recommending you go get one of these accident insurance plans outside of your employer. I didn't look into that, but as far as I could tell, it looks like the rates are quite a bit higher. Being on your employer plan and paying those group rates and getting a discount, like I said, my annual cost is, $43 less than just the health screening benefit alone. My daughter sprained her ankle, which resulted in us having to go to an urgent care visit and get some x-rays. So for that claim, we were paid $275 and received a payment for urgent care of $100. We got another $100 payment for the x-ray, and then another $75 for when we did a follow-up visit. And so within the plan, depending on the type of care you get, the type of things you need, the type of injury you have, you can get individual payments for it, and they're all spelled out in the plan. So if her ankle had actually been broken, she could have got a higher payment for that. Sprained ankle didn't count as an additional payment, just seeing the doctor and getting the x-rays and whatnot. If she needed physical therapy, we could have got $50 per visit towards that as well, and it could be up to 30 visits. So as you can see, depending on the injury and the type of needs that you have related to an accident, these things could potentially add up. And so we are an active family of four, so we definitely have a higher risk. If we're going to have to go to the doctor, there's a good chance it's going to be related to an accident, some kind of musculoskeletal injury. And like I said, with that $200 health screening benefit that basically pays the cost of the policy, I feel like it's worth it. With 2 months left in the year, even after paying that $157, we've still gotten $318 in benefit from it. So like I said, that helps out with some of the medical costs that we've had to pay out of pocket on our health insurance. It's not a huge amount, but best case scenario, if you don't actually need to use the plan, because that means you're not getting injured, and the cost of the health screening is covering it as well. I looked up the rates. So if you only insure yourself, at my employer, the cost would be $56.16. So literally this thing would cost you like $6 a year after you've gotten that $50 health screening benefit if you're just insuring yourself. For a couple, it would cost you $110 per year. So your out-of-pocket cost for two people is only $10. You would get $100 in the health screening benefit. And then if you're an employee just insuring a couple kids, that would cost you $133 a year. And that's where this thing pays for itself. Kids seem to be cheaper than adults. You'd get $150 in health screening benefit, and it would only cost you $133 per year. And if you have a bad year, get a bunch of injuries, the plan could pay out like thousands of dollars to help offset those costs with that high-deductible health plan and protect your HSA funds. You can pay a higher rate for what they call the enhanced plan, and it pays out a little bit more than the basic plan. For reference, an individual would have to pay $90 per year now versus just $56. Now you're looking at paying 1.5 times more for a little over 1.5 times for the insurance policy. Health screening benefits still going to offset that by $50, but you're going to now pay $40 out of pocket versus $6. So quite a bit more expensive in that sense. And the rates go up higher depending on how many people you keep adding. But on the flip side of that, had we been on the enhanced plan, sure, our out-of-pocket costs would have been more. The plan wouldn't have paid for itself, but we would have gotten $550 in payouts for that ankle sprain instead. So it's one of those things. But personally, I like that the health screening benefit makes the plan pretty much free and actually pays a little bit more back. So I don't plan to pay any extra for the enhanced plan. I'd only do that if, your family seems to be cursed or you're guaranteed to have like tons of injuries. Of course, when you buy up, you're probably not going to have any injuries that year, right? Like I said, I like the idea of the health screening pretty much covering almost all the costs of the plan. There's a long list of potential benefit payments, all related to accidents. For example, lab work, Imaging, braces, prescriptions, those tend to be the smaller ones, but those still range from amounts like $10 for a prescription up to $200 for imaging. If you wound up needing a chiropractor related to the injury or accident, you could get payments for that for $25 a piece. If your injury needed surgery, so hip surgery, the plan's going to pay thousands of dollars just for the surgery alone, plus a lot more for miscellaneous costs as well. If you need to stay in the hospital, like you would get a lump sum payment for that. If you have to drive to a hospital or accompany your kids or family members, there's payments for transportation and for having to stay in a hotel, things like that. So depending on what you got going on, the thing could pay you out a lump sum of several thousands of dollars like it did for my colleague, or it could, pay out a few $100 or nothing at all, kind of like it's been doing for me. I've had this the last 2 years. One potential issue with this thing is you sign up for it, kind of like I did the first year, and then you forget or you don't even notice that it has the health screening benefit. And so then you pay $150, you don't have any injuries, you don't use it, and it's just kind of another thing you're paying for that you're not actually using. But this year I remembered, oh shoot, I got to upload a claim for the health screening benefit. My experience with that was it was pretty easy. I didn't even have to submit proof that I went to the dentist's office. I had to check a box saying, yes, I'm not committing insurance fraud. Here's the date. And then they did need social security numbers. I had my kids' social security numbers handy, so that wasn't that much of a hassle. And then I got a payment for $200, $50 per family member, literally 2 days later into my bank account. So that was nice. When I filed the claim, I just uploaded the after visit summary. They didn't need a receipt. I just had to prove that my kid was seen at urgent care, that they did an x-ray, and that the injury was related to an accident. And then I got payments for that shortly after as well. So pretty easy. Depending on what you're claiming, I could see how it might be a little more of a hassle. If you're looking at several thousands of dollars, I could see them needing perhaps a little more information or wanting to see some receipts. But for the most part, for me, it was as simple as just uploading that after visit summary with the diagnosis. Like I said, if you're an active family, my kids are in organized sports. It's kind of another interesting perk. The specific accident insurance I have, the payments are actually 25% higher if an injury results from, being on an organized sporting teams. My kids, they do soccer, probably going to do basketball this year. We also do a lot of mountain biking. My kid was in the mountain biking program. Both my kids are really good skiers. They do all mountain skiing. They're learning how to snowboard. All year long, we're doing lots of outdoor activities where, you're prone to injury and whatnot. And again, we're on that high deductible health plan, which means we're going to have to pay $300-400 out of pocket if we have to go see a doctor for any kind of medical care. But with accident insurance, which, we have somewhat high likelihood of actually needing, we can get that offset, and that can help us protect those health savings account funds and not even have to use them. So that's nice. I think it's probably a good idea if your employer is getting you low cost. One additional benefit is these payments are tax-free. So because you're paying with your after-tax dollars for the premiums, getting these lump sum payments, they're not reported on your taxes. So that's kind of nice too. This is tax-free income to offset that. So another way to help protect your bank account, it might definitely make sense if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't have a lot of money, and a accident or injury would be catastrophic to your finances. This can be another way to help you offset, protect your finances as well. The fact that the health screening benefit almost completely covers the cost of the insurance for most people, I think makes it worth it. If you have a family, I'm getting money back on it even if I don't use it. So I feel like that's a no-brainer for me. Actually getting paid and uploading the claims was pretty much hassle-free, and I actually did it at work. Didn't even have to do it on my own time. Check out your policy. Definitely run the numbers. The more I had to pay out of pocket for this thing, the less likely I would be to use it, because at the end of the day, these policies are profitable because by far more people are paying into them than are actually having accidents. So injuries from accidents aren't that common, even though it kind of seems like it might be. Be sure to consider that. So there you have it. Review your open enrollment or when you're taking a new job for benefits. See if your employer has accident insurance. See if it has that health screening benefit. Make sure there's not a ton of hassle or hoops to jump through to actually get those things. The provider I was using was MetLife. Next year, my employer's moving to Aetna. It's essentially the same policy. It looks like it's going to be the same kind of process to get paid, but I'll be sure to update if my experience with Aetna is a lot more of a hassle than it was with MetLife. Great way, I think, to offset your medical expenses and protect your health savings account funds. And like I said, potentially a lot of benefit with relatively little cost. Just make sure you do remember to health screening. Remind yourself to get it, because I think they are pretty much banking on you're going to forget, just like I did with my first year, where you're going to pay the premiums and they're not actually going to have to pay anything out. And like I said, I hope you take advantage of some of our accredited education. If you would leave a review for the show, greatly appreciate it. This show is about helping nurses make better financial decisions and living better lives and getting the most out of their careers. So the more nurses who are rating the show and spreading the word about it, the more nurses we can actually help. And also, if you subscribe to our email list, that'll get you exclusive discounts on our courses. Plus, we have a bunch of free courses and a starter kit that you can get access to start improving your finances today. Thanks for listening today, and I hope you're having a great November.